I don't know how good the team is around him. I mean, obviously he has a great team around him. I just don't think he has a clear like number one receiver.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason, he's Vaz, and today we are giving you our redraft rankings for quarterbacks. And before we get to that, we want to make an announcement that we are starting up a Bestball tournament, and you can enter for absolutely free. All you have to do is comment below your opinions of our quarterback list, who you think we have ranked perhaps too high or too low. Let us know, and you will automatically be entered in. We are accepting 12 teams along with us, and the winner of this, well, you are going to get a free entry into next year's cash league that we are going to be getting in on. So do join us for that. Of course, most important thing is bragging rights, though. Hey, if you can win this league, beat both of us and everyone else, that's the most important thing, certainly. But if you want to get in on the action, leave a comment below. Let us know that you want to get in, and certainly let us know what you think of our quarterback list. So without further ado, Vaz, let's get to our quarterback list. This is actually my list that I have put together for my quarterback rankings. This is 2024 season redraft for SuperFlex. And the first tier, I have 5 names in it. It includes Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. Vaz, when you take a look at this, anyone that you think that doesn't belong in this tier, or anyone that you think should have been included in this tier?
Hmm. I like your tier. The one name that kind of stands out to me is Joe Burrow. I think I would probably move him down a tier. I think there's for me the top 4 guys. So Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, and Jackson. Any of these 4 could be the QB1 overall, in my opinion. I think in years past, Josh Allen has been like hands down the QB1 overall. At this stage in the season. But I think this year with, the departures in that offense and like the question marks around the Bills, I think it's a little bit murkier. I think Mahomes has gotten a lot of talent around him now with the addition of Xavier Worthy and with also with Hollywood Brown and then a returning Kelsey and Rice as well. So I think if there's going to be a year where Mahomes could step back into the number 1 spot, this might be it. So I think any of those 4 guys, Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar, and then Josh Allen could be the QB1 overall. I'm not sure that Burrow could be. I was, for me, I don't know how you felt, but I felt like last year Burrow took a step back and just didn't seem the same as he's looked in the years past. So I'm a little bit worried about Burrow. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think to me, when I put this list together, like you mentioned, the top 4 guys on the list, they could easily just be another tier. I clearly had Burrow ahead of everyone in the next tier, which is why I included him on this tier. But Burrow is the clear number 5 within this tier, and everyone else above him, I'm okay if you order them differently. If you have Mahomes number 1, if you have even Lamar number 1, or Jalen Hurts number 1, I'm okay with that. I agree that there's no way that I would have Burrow at number 1 within this tier.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. He, as I said, though, would be above everyone else in my next tier. Let's take a look at the next tier, which includes Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, and Aaron Rodgers. Anyone here stand out, either being in the tier that don't belong, anyone that I'm missing, or anyone within the tier that is either too high or too low?
Okay, yeah, this is a really crowded tier. So the one name that stands out to me the most is Brock Purdy. I would move him down a little bit. I think I really like Dak and Kirk. I like where you have them here. I think, they both have upside to be top 5 quarterbacks. Kyler as well. I'd probably move Kyler up because of the rushing upside and then the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. As long as he stays healthy, I think, Kyler Murray could easily be at the top of this tier. So, and also Jordan Love at the top of the tier, I'm not so sure, even though I think he's an absolute great talent. I don't know how good the team is around him. I mean, he obviously has a great team around him. I just don't think he has a clear, like, number 1 receiver. We'll see if maybe Jaden Reed could be that. So yeah, personally, I would move Brock Purdy down. That's the one that stands out. I don't know. Why do you have Brock Purdy so high?
To be honest with you, I struggled with this group. What is this? 8 or 9 guys that I've got in this group together, and I mix and matched it like 6 or 7 times where, it was musical chairs. And I really don't care if you had anyone in this group at the top or anyone in this group at the bottom. If I'm drafting and these guys come up, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, I'm not taking them
Hmm.
until the others are taken anyways. So for me, when I had this, I think these guys are fractions of points per game apart in
Yeah.
my list of rankings. So I would just be waiting for whichever one of these guys have like one or two of them left, and then drafting one of them at that point before it moves on to the next tier. But beyond that, yeah, I really don't have Purdy that much higher than these guys or Jordan Love in particular. I like both of them in terms of being growing quarterbacks. Like I think we know what Dak is. I think we know what Cousins is. They certainly have the capabilities of finishing higher than those guys, but I like the upside of maybe Love and Purdy can do even more than what they've shown so far. So that's why I have them higher. But do they need to be? Not necessarily.
I think first of all, I think the biggest takeaway here is that like you don't want to be drafting at the top of this tier. I think that's
Yeah.
the best piece of advice you had there. You want to be drafting at the end of this tier, or even a couple guys in your next tier. I think could squeeze into this tier and be drafted ahead of some of the other guys you have in this tier. So I think yeah, the best piece of advice, the biggest takeaway there is don't be drafting at the top of this tier. Wait till these guys go and then grab at the end of this tier, or maybe even the guys at the top of the next tier.
Okay. And speaking of which, then let's take a look at the next tier. A lot of younger guys or guys with maybe a little bit of risk or age. It includes Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams, Tua Tagovailoa, Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, and then Matthew Stafford, rounding up the top 20 quarterbacks. I think a lot of people will have Anthony Richardson in the tier above. Who knows, maybe even 2 tiers above. I know a lot of people are very high on him. I am not. And the biggest reason is simply because of the risk of injury. I know that his upside is immense, but I don't want to be taking him as my first quarterback. And then at some point, he suffers an injury, and now I'm left without my QB1. So, because of that, I have brought him into this lower tier where I think each of these guys I see as guys that I want as my second quarterback, not guys that I want as the first quarterback that I take.
Yeah, personally, I think that's sound advice. I think, there's no reason to go out and find injuries because they'll find you throughout the season. And, Anthony Richardson hasn't proven anything yet. He hasn't proven he can stay healthy for, half of a season, nonetheless a full season. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's way too high in the community's minds. I don't mind drafting him here because he does have high upside, especially with the rushing ability. But yeah, where he's going now is like in the top 10, and there's no way I'm taking him there with the injury risk. And then couple that with the fact that he hasn't really proven over the course of a season that he is a top talent, that he can do it for more than a couple games. So yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and again, once again, like if you took one of the quarterbacks in the first tier, like if you got one of those top four, top five guys, and Richardson becomes your second quarterback, and you're taking him a little bit earlier, I'm almost more okay with that. But like I said, the reason I don't want to put him in that top 12 or 13 is I just don't want to have him as my first quarterback because of the injury risk. Let's take a look at my next tier, which is basically everyone else that is projected to start. Starts off with Deshaun Watson, then Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones. Anyone here stand out to you that does not belong here, or should have been either higher or lower for whatever reason?
Yeah, there's definitely two guys that stand out here. I think personally I would have Deshaun Watson and Justin Herbert a tier above. So I'm curious as to why you have them in this tier because Deshaun Watson has proven that he's capable of like a top 10. He's had two top five quarterback seasons. I know the past few have not been very promising, but we know he's capable of that. So I think like at this stage you're chasing upside a little bit. And then Justin Herbert is a fantastic player. So he doesn't seem to belong with these other guys. So I'm curious as to why you have these two in a tier below, along with guys like Bryce Young and Gardner Minshew and Sam Darnold.
Yeah. First off, with Deshaun Watson, his Cleveland experience has just been so bad for, the last couple of seasons. I really, the guy that I have below, so I've got Deshaun Watson, then Justin Herbert, and then Russell Wilson. So I actually see Deshaun Watson as being in a similar boat as Russell Wilson. I think there's one thing that separates the two of them, and it's guaranteed money. Okay. Deshaun Watson has a lot of guaranteed money with Cleveland. Russell Wilson does not, but both of them are guys that have been top five quarterbacks perennially. Certainly have the talent to do so, but then have had things go wrong recently. And, even for a lot of people knock Russell Wilson. He was a top 14 quarterback just last year in what was supposed to have been a disaster in Denver. He's been a top 16 quarterback each of the last 3 seasons where, things were horrible for him. So I think people are really down on a guy like Russell Wilson, who I actually put in the same boat as a guy like Deshaun Watson. So yes, I believe that Deshaun Watson has upside, but I think there is risk for failure the same way that Russell Wilson has the potential for upside, but the risk for failure as well. The one more thing I'll say with Justin Herbert, it's the obvious thing that everyone knows, is it just seems like Harbaugh wants to run the ball in with the Chargers. And yes, Herbert has shown that he is a top talent, absolutely is a top 10 talent, but based on how they're going to manage that offense, if they're going to use him as more of a game manager than, a thrower, then it concerns me. And because of that, I just feel that his ceiling is now limited. And if his ceiling is going to be that limited, I'm just not going to be as high on him. And I don't want to be taking him in the same tier as the guys in the group before.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. I think like I know you're high on Russ. I personally would have Deshaun Watson at least in the tier above, and then Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson I think should be like their own tier. I don't think they belong with these other guys. Um, especially like when I look down the list and see like Jacoby Brissett and Sam Darnold who could play 3 games. Yeah, I just can't put them in the same list because definitely, Justin Herbert is going to play every single game this season as long as he's healthy, right? He's that
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
So I just don't really get why they're in the same tier, but I understand your reasoning somewhat. I think I know you're not confident putting him in your starting lineup with how much they're expected to run the ball, but you have to admit he is a great NFL quarterback, right? So I think he probably belongs in a tier of his own.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough I mean you could break up this tier. Like I wanted to break this up down in a way of also like these are quarterbacks that I want as my quarterback 3, right? So I don't really want Deshaun Watson or Justin Herbert or Russell Wilson being counted on as the second quarterback on my team where I have to start them. Ideally, I think they'd be an excellent third quarterback, but I think everyone in this group, they kind of fill that role of being a guy that I can use for bye weeks, or if they go off and have a good start, then I can use them as trade bait to improve my team somewhere else. So I think that's why they're kind of grouped in with all the remaining starters, is just confidence level of, do I want this guy as a week in, week out starter on my team? And for me with that, I'd rather have them as like a breakout guy that I can sell for more rather than a guy I need to count on every single week.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Personally, I chase rushing upside first and foremost at this stage, late in the draft with these flyer picks. So that's why I'm higher on Deshaun Watson. But I get what you're saying. I don't really group Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson because I think Deshaun Watson has that rushing upside that Russell Wilson doesn't, and coupled with the fact that he has a better team around him, in my opinion, better weapons, and yeah, higher upside. So
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
for
whoa,
me,
whoa.
there's a
Okay, no, you're right. You're right. For
it's
a
okay.
moment, I did a brain fart, and when you said he had better weapons, the Seattle Seahawk fan in me all of a sudden kicked in. I was thinking about Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
Yeah, it's a couple
Flashbacks.
years ago, buddy. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Let's get into the
Let's
next tier.
Yeah, I want to get into this one final tier, and none of these guys are expected to be starters. Certainly in week one, they might at some point in the season. And these are guys that I think are worth taking like a last round or a second last round flyer on. So guys that, are worthy of perhaps being drafted. Obviously, they're not guys that you want in your starting lineup, but they could be a third or maybe even a fourth quarterback for a Superflex lineup. They include Aiden O'Connell, Justin Fields, Drew Lock, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Zach Wilson, Joshua Dobbs, Sam Howell, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, and Michael Penix Jr. Anyone else that you think is worthy of being drafted that I have not included on that list? And of the guys on this list, how do you like these guys, or are there others that you like more than the norm?
Listen, I don't think I would draft pretty much any of these guys. I'd rather take flyers on positional players.
Okay.
A lot of these guys seem like handcuffs. I could understand drafting one of these guys if you draft a questionable quarterback and you want to handcuff them. Maybe like if you like for whatever reason decided to draft Jacoby Brissett and you wanted to handcuff him with Drake May, that type of thing, I could understand. Or Russell Wilson and you handcuff him with Justin Fields, I could get behind that. But for the most part, I'm staying away from these quarterbacks. For me, they're waiver wire guys. They're like guys that are unlikely to see the field. So I'm not going to waste a draft pick on these guys. I'd rather use a draft pick on a higher upside positional player personally. But I mean, like, yeah, if I were to draft one of these guys in this list, it'd probably be JJ McCarthy because I think he's got the most potential to play a significant amount of games. I don't believe in Sam Darnold. I think JJ McCarthy will be the quarterback for the majority of the season. So, and especially with the weapons there in the Minnesota, he's the one that stands out the most to me. I think JJ McCarthy probably could be in the tier above. I would take him over other guys in your tier above. So he's the one that stands out to me. Maybe Justin Fields as well, because if he saw the field, then he could be a league winner. So depending on the league format, if you're playing a best ball, I'm not taking Justin Fields. But if you're playing a standard league where you have a playoffs week 16 like that, week 15, then maybe I'm going to take Justin Fields because of the upside.
Okay, there you have it. Those are my quarterback rankings for a Superflex redraft league for 2024. Remember to leave your comments. What do you think of the list? Who do you think I have too high, too low? Let us know. And of course, with that, we will enter you automatically into our raffle for our best ball league as well. Vaz, any final words on any of these rankings whatsoever?
No, I will mention though that if you did comment in our previous video and feel like you've entered the raffle already, you can comment once per video. So if you comment in this video as well, you'll get two kicks to the can, two darts of the dartboard. So feel free to comment every video up until our draft at the beginning of August, and you'll be entered multiple times into the draw.
All right. Make sure you get into the comments and let us know what you think. Also, join our Facebook group. I have left the link in the description below. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time on another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks.